unpredictable. One moment, everything feels perfect, and the next, we are faced with challenges that test our patience, resilience, and understanding of the world around us. But what if I told you that every difficult moment, every hardship, and every loss has a hidden purpose? What if those moments that break us down are actually leading us towards something greater? In today's fast-paced world, it's easy to get caught up in the idea that success and happiness should come easily. When life doesn't go our way, we feel frustrated, helpless, and question why bad things happen to good people. This is a story about perspective. How shifting the way we view challenges can change the course of our lives. Many of us have heard the old adage, everything happens for a reason, but it's often hard to accept in the moment when things are falling apart. It's human nature to resist pain and discomfort, to cling to control and certainty. Yet, the truth is, the universe has its own rhythm, and sometimes the setbacks we face are part of a larger plan that we can't fully comprehend. Let me share a powerful Buddhist story that illustrates this concept. It is the story of a king and his wise minister, and how one small event, seemingly unfortunate at first, ended up saving both their lives. But this isn't just a story about ancient times. It's a metaphor for our own lives, filled with challenges and unexpected turns, and it teaches us a profound lesson about patience, acceptance, and the power of perspective. Once upon a time, there was a great king who ruled over a vast and prosperous kingdom. He had everything a king could wish for: wealth, power, and respect from his people. But like any human, the king often found himself worrying about his kingdom's future, about the unpredictable nature of life and the challenges that might come his way. By his side was a wise minister, a man known for his calm demeanor and profound understanding of life. No matter what happened, whether good or bad, the minister always had one phrase that he would repeat: "Whatever happens, happens for good." This was a belief rooted in his understanding of the universe, karma, and the teachings of the Buddha. He believed that every event, no matter how painful or difficult, served a higher purpose. One day, the king was inspecting his sword, an elegant, sharp weapon that symbolized his power. As he admired its craftsmanship, he accidentally dropped it, and the sword fell directly onto his foot, slicing off one of his toes. The king screamed in pain, and his guards rushed to assist him. Blood poured from the wound, and the king was in a state of shock. But as always, the minister stood by, calm and composed, and simply said, "Whatever happens, happens for good." The king was furious. How could this be for good? He had just lost a toe. His pain was real, his suffering immediate. In his anger, he turned to the minister and demanded an explanation. "How can you say that this is good? I am the king, and now I am maimed. What good can come from this?" But the minister did not waver. He repeated his phrase, "Whatever happens, happens for good." This only angered the king further. Feeling disrespected and betrayed by the minister's lack of sympathy, the king ordered his soldiers to imprison the minister in the dungeon. "Let him stay there and think about his foolish words," the king thought. "Perhaps then he will learn that not everything is for good." Months passed, and the king slowly recovered from his injury. Though his toe was gone, he could walk again, and life in the kingdom returned to normal. But the king still harbored anger toward his minister, and the man remained imprisoned. One day, the king decided to go on a hunting expedition. Accompanied by his soldiers, he ventured deep into the forest, far from the safety of the palace. The thrill of the hunt consumed him as he chased a wild deer, pushing his horse harder and faster through the dense trees. In his excitement, the king became separated from his soldiers and found himself lost in the middle of the forest. As the king wandered, trying to find his way back, he stumbled upon a group of tribals who lived deep within the forest. These tribals, fierce and unknown to the king's kingdom, had a custom of offering human sacrifices to their deity. Upon seeing the king, they captured him, preparing to sacrifice him in their sacred ritual. The king, bound and terrified, pleaded for his life. He explained that he was a ruler, that his soldiers would soon find him, and that they should release him. But the tribals did not understand his language, nor did they care about his position. To them, he was just another man, a perfect candidate for their sacrifice. They bathed him, dressed him in ceremonial clothes, and adorned him with garlands, preparing him for the ritual. As the drums beat louder and louder, the king's heart raced. He knew his life was about to end. But just as the chief of the tribe raised his hand to signal the beginning of the sacrifice, something caught his eye. The king's foot, wrapped in bandages, was missing a toe. The chief stopped the ceremony immediately. He turned to his people and said, "This man is incomplete. We cannot sacrifice someone who is not whole. It would anger the deity and bring misfortune upon our tribe." With that, they untied the king and let him go, sparing his life. The king, shocked but immensely relieved, quickly found his way back to his palace. Upon returning to the palace, the king's mind was racing. He realized that if he hadn't lost his toe, the tribals would have sacrificed him. His injury, the very one he had cursed, had saved his life. He immediately ordered his soldiers to release the minister from prison. When the minister stood before him, the king apologized. "You were right," the king admitted. "When I cut my toe, I thought it was the worst thing that could happen to me. But if it hadn't happened, I would be dead right now. I now understand that whatever happens, happens for good." The minister smiled, but he wasn't surprised. "My lord," he said, "I am glad you have come to understand this truth. But there is more to the story. You see, had I not been in prison, I would have accompanied you on your hunting trip. And when the tribals saw that you were incomplete, they would have spared you. But I, being whole, would have been sacrificed in your place." The king was stunned. He had never considered this possibility. Not only had his injury saved his life, but by imprisoning the minister, he had saved him as well. It was a profound moment of realization for the king, who now saw that the minister's words were not just comforting phrases. They were deeply rooted in the wisdom of the universe. The story of the king and the minister is more than just a tale of survival. It is a reflection of how we view the events in our lives. Often, we judge situations based on immediate outcomes, labeling them as good or bad, without fully understanding the bigger picture. But as the story illustrates, what seems like a misfortune in the moment can turn out to be a blessing in disguise. In our modern lives, we often face situations that test our patience and resilience. We lose jobs, end relationships, or experience failures that feel overwhelming. In those moments, it's easy to feel lost, to question why these things are happening to us. But as the minister's wisdom teaches us, we cannot always see the full picture. Life is complex, and the universe operates on a scale far beyond our limited understanding. Take, for example, the story of a young woman who lost her job during a company downsizing. At first, she was devastated. She had worked hard for years, building her career, and suddenly it was all taken away. But with time, she began to explore new opportunities, and eventually, she found a job that was not only more fulfilling, but also better aligned with her passions. Looking back, she realized that losing her job had been the catalyst for positive change in her life. Or consider the story of a man who went through a painful breakup. At the time, it felt like the end of the world. He couldn't understand why his relationship had ended, and he struggled to move on. But as time passed, he grew stronger, learned more about himself, and eventually found a partner who was a better match for him in every way. In hindsight, he saw that the breakup had been a necessary step toward finding true happiness. These examples, like the story of the king and the minister, remind us that we must have faith in the process of life. Even when things seem bleak, there is often a greater purpose at work, one that we may not be able to see in the moment. By trusting that whatever happens, happens for good, we can approach life's challenges with a sense of peace and acceptance. In conclusion, the story of the king and the minister is a timeless reminder of the importance of perspective. Life is full of ups and downs, and we often find ourselves in situations that feel unfair or painful. But if we can learn to trust in the process, to believe that there is a greater plan at work, we can navigate these challenges with grace and resilience. The next time you face a setback, remember the king and his missing toe. What seems like a loss today may turn out to be the very thing that saves you tomorrow. And when life throws you into unexpected situations, take a deep breath and remind yourself that whatever happens, happens for good. The universe is always working in your favor, even when you can't see it.